Today we are joined with the wonderful Rachel Gold.
Thank you. The wonderful.
And you were just telling us that you used to be a singer.
I did spring it on you. I know. I said, I don't know whether you know that I used to be a singer, a famous singer.
Is this bringing you back?
No. Well, actually, I'm lying. Yes, of course, the mic, holding the mic and testing the mic before we started, it brought back the memories of running around in Holland. I was in a very famous group. We had 5 #1 records in Holland.
No way.
Yeah.
Shut up. Why do I not know that?
Because I keep it secret.
What was the name of the band?
The group was called Fluff, and we were Holland's answer to Bananarama. And so we had all these like massive hits in Germany, and we toured all around the world, and we used to get chased down the road, and we had management that wouldn't allow us to leave the hotel in the evening.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, super famous.
So when were you in? When did you do that?
Oh, that was 900 years ago. And a girlfriend of mine who's a personal stylist, she always says, don't say how long you've been in the industry, because then people will realise how old you are. I'm like, okay, I think they know already.
Oh my goodness. So you did that for what, 5, 6 years?
No, I did it for 12, 15 years. And actually, it's one of the reasons that I started to do meditation, because I love the sound of my own voice.
Oh my!
It's always and we get it a lot making this podcast. Is you hear back your own voice all the time, and was that something at the start? Were you completely comfortable with it, or did you have to get over it?
Look, the reality is that I'm teasing by saying that I love the sound of my own voice. When I first heard my voice in the studio, I was so disappointed. Like, really disappointed.
In what way?
Well, because I thought, oh, this is amazing. I'm an amazing singer. I used to get all dressed up in all these sequins and earrings and prance around. I was only like 13, 14. I used to sneak into pubs and go and sing on the mic, like find who the musicians were and just say to them, can I sing? And I'd sing all these old sort of Billie Holiday songs, you know, prancing around. And I thought I was amazing. And then I went to London. I went into a recording studio, put the headsets on, and this voice came
reality check.
And I was like, really? Oh, no.
Well, you must have been quite good if you were having #1 records.
Well, I mean, I could hold a tune, but I mean, at that time, I was only sort of like 14, 15, and I really thought I had this huge voice. So obviously, I had to practice quite a lot. And it was a perception. I thought I sounded like something different. And actually, that was the disappointment. I thought I sounded like, you know, Aretha Franklin, one of these kind of really big voices, whereas my voice was really actually a lot sort of calmer and softer than that.
Yeah.
So, you know, this is where we have these perceptions about ourselves. That
So we thought we were going to talk about maybe a bit of styling and mindfulness meditation, but we're actually sat here with a celebrity today. And we're going to talk about singing.
No, we're not. We're going to talk about mindfulness and styling. And actually, it all kind of came from that, because obviously with the styling, all this dressing up that I used to do and this sort of persona that I have of being on stage, the styling came into that as well, because I used to style everybody in my household. I used to style the dog, the neighbours, everyone got styled. Because I always had this idea, wow, that looks amazing. If you put that on, you suddenly become that. So if you're getting dressed up in sequins and earrings and makeup and that kind of thing, you become that persona. And the same thing even with my brothers, you know, I used to dress them up like rock stars, and suddenly they'd all be like walking around looking really tough.
Were they into it? Did they ever resist?
Well, no, I mean, they'd always do it, whereas actually they were quite shy, both of them, but they'd become this persona because of being dressed up.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Wow. So you still in touch with the rest of the band?
A couple of the girls I still know. It was a 3-piece band. It was 3 girls. And so there were all kinds of dramas. We both hated the blonde one because I had the red hair. She had dark hair. And the blonde one was always getting all the play because she was the prettiest one. Whereas we were like the real singers, and she was just sort of like always looking glamorous and gorgeous, and everyone wanted to interview her. So we hated her.
She's just out there to catch the eyes. You're the real talent.
We were the real talents. That's what we said anyway.
Oh my goodness. So is there going to be a comeback tour anytime soon?
I shouldn't think so. The band fell apart like 3 or 4 times. Then they had like different personnel. And then in the end, I think recently they had a bit of a relaunch over there. But, like the lead singer, I think she's probably like 70 now.
Is she the blonde one?
The blonde one.
So she managed to keep it going.
She managed to keep it going, yeah. And I think she retired about 3 or 4 times, did a bit of an Elton John, she retired and then came back.
Yeah.
So
wow.
I always love it. I mean, nowadays it's really interesting because in those days we didn't have internet. There were no telephones, as such. If you wanted to call someone, you'd go into a telephone box or you'd have a phone at home. So there was none of the exposure that you get now. So it was a very different thing. There wasn't a celebrity as such. It just wasn't that kind of world. Elizabeth Taylor was a celebrity. But, you wouldn't get like a reality person because there were no reality TV shows.
Yeah.
So
you just spot them out on the street.
But why
and flood towards them?
Why in Holland?
Basically, I had a record which was released in New York with a wonderful jazz saxophonist called Grover Washington Jr., who was very famous at the time, and especially in the jazz world. And the picture on the front cover, I looked like one of the girls who had just left the band. So they said, "Oh, would you come and audition?" So I said, "Well, no, because I don't audition. That's just not what I do." So they said, "Well, will you come and join the band?" And so my manager said, "I think you should do it. You might as well do it. You're going to enjoy yourself. They've got a little bit of play already, so you might as well go and do it." So that was why.
Wow. Yeah. And how many years were you with them for?
I was with them for like 4.5 years, but I was in the industry for like 12, nearly 15 years.
So what did you go on to do after that?
After that, I did a couple of my own records, and I really went back to my kind of like jazzy sort of soul roots, whereas this was pure pop.
Yeah.
It was pure pop. It was pure kind of like, when I look back on YouTube and I see myself in these like thigh-high Puss in Boots and the mini skirts, and we were all doing the same dance together.
Oh, we're definitely linking that. Even linking it in the description below.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was great fun.
Rachel Gold is a great stage name as well, but did you have something different back then? Or?
Well, I think, in fact, at the time I used my middle name, Michelle Gold, because my middle name is Michelle, so it was Michelle Gold because it kind of sounded a bit smoother. The Rachel's a bit hard, whereas the Michelle was kind of like the M.
Yeah, rolls off nicely.
Yeah, I think so. But it was interesting. A lot of change.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'd wake up in a hotel and I think, which country are we in, or where are we, or what's my hotel room? So there was a lot of that. We were really kind of at it. So
what's the craziest story you got from touring then?
I was on the stage in Holland, and at the end of the show, a guy came up and brought a bunch of flowers onto the stage, and I thought it was a bit creepy, but it was almost like silence. Everyone was sort of like screaming, but then it went very quiet, and it turned out it was the Prince of Holland.
Oh, wow.
And so then the newspaper, I had no idea who he was.
Yeah, I understand.
I didn't know who anyone was. So the next day it was all in the paper. Is the Prince of Holland courting love singer Michelle Gold?
No way.
and was he?
I have no idea.
You didn't
thanks for flowers.
Exchange. You didn't get into the telephone box to call him after.
I was a diva. I was like, who's this guy? Thanks for the flowers.
some groupie. Turns out to be the Prince of Holland.
Well, that's pretty cool. You've been hit on by royalty.
Yeah, there you go. Is that so cool nowadays?
Yeah. So then you got into styling. And was that pretty much immediately, or did you take a little bit of gap from work?
Yeah, really the styling came about because of being in the entertainment industry. And it was an interesting thing because I suddenly went from being in front of the camera to being behind it. And that was a really big, transformation, actually, because at first I thought it was going to be really exciting, dressing other people who are on the stage, making them look wonderful, dressing, so-called civilians, making them look wonderful. But actually, to go behind the camera when you've been in front of it, It really is a big change. And it was quite uncomfortable for a number of years because as much as celebrity styling sounds really glamorous, it's actually like being a dresser. You know, and you get a lot of like people being quite dismissive to you. There's a lot of bossy people around. It's not like in America. In America, celebrity stylists, they really are within their own right. You know, they're something very special. Whereas in this country, often they'll say things like, oh, you know, can you come and style me? So you'll say, yes, great, my fee is. And they're like, oh, we're not going to pay you. We thought it'd be good for you to just have the exposure.
Oh, they think they're doing it as just a bit of a favour.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then often you'll get people will say things, particularly celebrities, that someone will ask them, oh, your dress looks fabulous, and say, yes, I know, thanks.
Yeah, no
Don't
regard.
mention their stylist. And, you know, there's a lot of that sort of thing that goes on. It's quite, you've got to be very hardcore to be in that business. You know, it's very hard work. There's not that much thanks. And actually the money now, there's not that much money in it either. You know.
Yeah, and it's just the fashion industry is just. Charlie and I were chatting about it earlier because my girlfriend.
We do.
Yeah, all the time.
Fashion.
Yeah, because my girlfriend works in fashion for Dover Street, and it's just like a completely different industry to the fitness industry. It's so maybe it's. I guess in the fitness industry, you got a lot of people kind of being very showy and like, look at me, etc. Yeah. Especially like the influencer world. Yeah. But you know, making that, I guess you found it difficult making that transition from being on the camera to behind the camera. But did that make you ever question, was I ever that nasty to the people who were styling me or working for me? Did you ever have that, or you just got smacked of how poorly some people are treated?
Well, I laugh and say, you know, I was a diva. I think I was a diva in my own mind as such, but I honestly can say I have never treated anyone in the way that people treat people these days. I've seen some horrendous things. And no, it didn't make me question that. It just made me think I'm really proud of myself for not being an arsehole.
Yeah. Because it's quite easily done, I suppose.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, I had someone say to me once, it was a celebrity, I went to put a shoe on her. She was sitting on a chair, and I said to her, you look really cold. So I went to help her put her shoe on. She said, look, everyone, watch. Rachel's going to kiss my feet.
Oh, for goodness sake.
Fuck off. Oh, no.
Yeah. So there's a lot of that sort of thing, a lot of delusional people. And I think it's also the whole celebrity culture now has made it very different than it used to be. So now you've got a lot of people who are not used to being on camera. They're not used to stardom. They don't have any particular talent, you know, other than just being on screen. So you get a lot of poor behavior because of that as well, you know, and also because they have like people around them who are all earning money from them. So no one wants to actually stand up to them. Everyone's being really sycophantic. So that's a tricky part and tricky aspect of it.
Yeah.
That's what I was wondering is when you move from being at the front to kind of serving and helping other people.
Yes.
When they are acting up or when they are showing like disrespect, what can you do about it? Do you ever stand up for it, or do you just accept and say this is kind of just how it is? Where do you find the balance?
Well, once I started practicing mindfulness and also the meditation, that really gave me a different view. And the one thing that I have is my word. I have to be honest as I see it. So generally speaking, if I get that sort of behavior, I will say to the person, can I have a word with you? And I will then tell them what I think about their behavior in the nicest possible way, or I will speak to their management. Because I think you have to be honest, and also I can't tolerate other people being spoken to like that. Now that's an interesting one, because with mindfulness one would observe rather than interfering and trying to control an environment. However, I just don't think it's acceptable. I think that sort of behaviour, you know, if someone else can't stand up for themselves, I think it's important that they do see that someone would. And perhaps that would encourage them to do it for themselves also.
Yeah, because I think that if you get into potentially the habit of mindfulness being, I guess by your kind of definition and understanding, start off with, what is, if you were to tell someone that didn't know what mindfulness was, how would you describe it?
Well, the saying is, I mean, there's the Zen background, but the saying is with mindfulness is paying attention in a particular way, which just on the surface of it, you think, what does that mean? But what it really means is being in the moment, staying in this moment, and being aware of what's being said, what's going on, and also how you're feeling, how someone else is speaking to you, whether or not you can accept that, whether you think you deserve to be spoken to in that way, or whether someone is overstepping your boundaries. So whether or not you can be careful with your own feelings and stand up for yourself in order to stop people treating you badly. So mindfulness is really just being aware of how you're feeling and the influence that other people have on you as well by their behavior.
I guess something I struggle with is just the way I am is I've always got big goals for myself, and being present is sometimes difficult for me because I'm always thinking, sometimes I get caught on the future and how that's going to work out and trying to almost problem solve whilst I'm with others.
Yes.
And what would be, and probably a lot of people listening today might also have the same problem. They're kind of almost thinking about, okay, I got to do that, I got to do this, and I'm actually currently with someone now, but that doesn't really matter because I've got to do that later, and what's next week look like? What would be a fix for something like that?
A fix. A fix is always an interesting thing because that's part of the brain. That really is part of the brain. A lot of us are living in the past. A lot of us are predicting into the future, and so of course we're missing this moment. And so to become more mindful, to become aware and to be in the moment is to really be doing whatever it is that you're doing right now to the best ability that you can. And that will then have an effect on what goes on in the future. When we're constantly thinking about the future, that's also a sign of being very impatient and trying to rush into the future rather than being in this moment. So then we're missing this moment. So in lots of respects, we're not doing anything properly because we're thinking I should be doing that, or we're thinking, what happened when I did that, or is the same result going to happen, rather than being in this present moment. So practicing being aware of, okay, I'm now doing that. Let's see if I can stay here and get this done here, and then in the future that will be the result of what I've done here. So it's not to say must stop doing something or you must stop. It's just being aware of when you are doing it. That often helps.
Yeah.
So every single time you do it, or as much as you can, to say, right, that's what I'm doing, but I need to do this because if I can finish this and get that part done, that'll be a good progress rather than missing everything.
Yeah, no, that kind of resonates quite a lot because it's doing my happiness is really valued on how productive I am, and because I always want to be, if I've had a productive day, for me I've achieved something, and then I am happy because it was productive, and then perhaps I can unwind in the evening. But the days I'm not productive is probably because I'm too focused on the big vision. And I'm like, oh my goodness, it's a bit overwhelming, but how am I going to do X, Y, and Z? And I'm trying to problem solve big problems rather than, focusing on the task. And then it's an unproductive day, then I'm stressed, and then I'm... it's something I probably need to practice a little bit more.
For sure. I mean, all these things definitely cause anxiety because if we're constantly thinking about what we should be doing and rushing around trying to achieve that, again, we're not in this moment and we're not grateful for what we are doing. So that's another thing, is just to actually be able to stop and notice what we are doing to ourselves, whether or not we're harming ourselves by having all these goals and we think, yeah, this is going to be great, but we don't know what's going to happen next. So if we can just focus here and now, even just taking a few deep breaths and stopping and saying, right, okay, I'm going to do that now, because that's a way of getting to the next thing. Because if we're going to go and climb a mountain, we don't immediately go to the mountain and go, right, mountain, I'm here.
Yeah.
We prepare ourselves for it, and we take one step at a time. So all this stuff sounds very dreamy, I know, and it sounds like, oh God, I'll never do that. But actually, the very practice of doing it is all part of mindfulness. And also the same thing with the meditation, just having a few moments to stop and unwind and relax, that actually helps and improves your mindfulness, and it also improves your performance.
Yeah. I think for you, I guess the biggest challenge, I remember us speaking maybe a year ago, was how do I explain mindfulness meditation in not this kind of wishy-washy, like woo-woo yogi sort of hippie way.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I think when you've put it into kind of situations there, for me, it resonates an awful lot more rather than be mindful, breathe, etc. But it's and being present is, I think, something everyone needs to work on, right? And
definitely
being in the moment, because you don't know if there is a tomorrow, right? Anything could happen.
Well, exactly. And I mean, I think also, what I often ask myself, if I find that I'm getting a bit like that, because we're all like that, even if you practice mindfulness, it's part of our being human, the mind darting around everywhere. But if you can actually ask yourself, why am I doing all of this? What is it that I want to achieve? And am I doing this because of myself? Is this a purpose? Is this something that I'm doing for others? Is it something that I'm doing to prove to someone that I can do it? What is the very purpose of all of this? That can help sometimes, because it can take the pressure off. Because putting so much pressure on yourself, all it does is make you more anxious. It's a little bit like smoking. You're smoking and you're thinking, right now I'm feeling calmer because I'm going to have a cigarette. But actually, it's making you more anxious. So it's the same thing when you're putting huge pressure on yourself to achieve all of these things. Why are you doing it? Yeah. So just to stop for a moment and ask yourself that question, that's a big one too.
Yeah, purpose is something that's become very important for me, but also kind of diving into the reason why and the purpose when people come to the gym or they sign up for personal training plans. Some people might put thousands of pounds down on a PT plan and they say, I want to do 2 sessions a week for 6 months. And I'm like, why? And then, I want to lose some body fat. But then you can't ask why again. And you try, for me, I'm big on peeling back those layers to find that deep-rooted cause, because the majority of the time, if people don't understand truly why they're trying to get fit or trying to lose body fat, they'll probably stay consistent for a month. And then they'll drop off, and then they'll just kind of do the bare minimum. Yeah. So for me, I've come to the realization now, doing personal training for, like 8 years. It's you can have a great nutrition plan. Yeah, you can have a great training plan. You can try and implement some good habits, but the real secret to unlocking those results is purpose and why.
Very much so. Yeah.
Awesome. And what would be a tactic you would You have a client who's come to you and they're stressed. How would you find out their purpose? What strategies or how do you kind of pull that out of them?
Well, I ask them the question, first of all, why they think they're stressed. That's the first thing. Why someone thinks they're stressed is often not the reason. So, for me, I don't take on every client. I tend to do like a couple of hours of free sessions, first of all, because I need to know whether or not we have any synergy, whether I really understand what it is they're trying to achieve, and whether or not I think I can help them. Because I think if you take on just everybody, you won't get a result necessarily. And I think it's really important that people realize what is going on, what's actually making them tick. And as the person who's working with them, I think it's the same for you. You've got to kind of be able to unpick what's going on. So with mindfulness therapy, it is supposed to be very much in the moment, life coaching in the moment. Whereas with psychological and talking therapy, they're going back. Well, I find with mindfulness, you still have to go back, actually, because the reason that people have come to this point that they're at is because of what's happened before. So it really is, you've got to look at the whole picture, actually. And really, with mindfulness, it is the same thing. It's not just looking at, I want to be present. It's looking at self-worth. It's looking at kindness, being kind to others, being kind to yourself. It's all those sorts of things that the whole thing is mindfulness, rather than just paying attention in a particular way. You're actually paying attention in a particular way to all of those things, not just one thing. So,
and what would be, you talk about stresses, asking why someone feels they're stressed. What would be the most common reasons that people give? And then also, you say it's different to what the actual cause might be. Yeah. What are then the actual most common stresses?
Well, work. People say work, work, family, retirement, when people are retiring. That's a really big one, because when people retire, often they give up a job, and they don't realise that actually the job was the thing that made them think that that's who they were. So they've just suddenly given up a great big chunk of self-identification as such. I think with young people, they're overwhelmed because they're thinking about too many things. Again, it's this whole kind of goal of wanting to achieve something, but not staying in the moment. And so therefore allowing everything else, all the other influences, to affect how they're feeling. They wake up, they're thinking about 10, 20 different things all at once, instead of just waking up and sitting and saying, thanks, I'm awake, I'm actually alive, and now I'm just going to take a few moments for myself. They're just rush, everything's scrolling, everything's doing, and so no one actually has a chance to just be for a moment. And just that practice, even in the morning, just for a few minutes, even that would help people. So I think anxiety is the biggest thing, anxiety and overwhelm.
Do you think it's probably we've got a mental health crisis at the moment in the country, in the world. You, when you were younger, you would wake up and you wouldn't have a mobile phone next to you with a million things happening.
Yeah.
Do you believe, like, social media and technology, because there's just this abundance of information and things going on, that's the reason people are now getting more anxious? They're comparing themselves to others. Someone said this, and you hear about everything. Is that a role to play in it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think in some respects, social media and the internet and things like that can be fantastic, because people can discover things very quickly and they might not have even thought about that. So from that aspect, I think it's nice. But this whole, the comparison, I mean, I'm in my 60s, and for me, when I go on Instagram, even I look at other people and think, why didn't I look like that? Or why didn't I say this, or why didn't I say that? So for someone who's in their teens, when you're literally, all of your hormones are raging and all that sort of thing, it must be a complete nightmare.
But you did like that. You need to post the photos of you back in the 70s and 80s when you were dancing around on stage.
Prancing around on stage. But you see, I didn't really have the comparison as such. We were in the group and there were other groups as such, whereas I think what's happened now with this whole kind of celeb and fame culture, everyone wants to be an influencer. Well, not everyone, but lots of people want to be something that we would never have dreamed of being when we were young.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have thought. You might say when you're 8, I want to be a fireman, but you wouldn't say I want to be an influencer. You might.
Now they might do. I don't know what kid like.
Now they would, But I mean,
in
in our era as such, people wanted to, like my brothers wanted to be. One of them wanted to be a policeman. One of them wanted to be a pilot. That kind of thing. Whereas now, people are wanting to be something that actually isn't really anything as such. What are we influencing other people to do? You know, it's the same thing with mindfulness and meditation. I'm not trying to make someone do anything. All I'm doing is showing them a way that perhaps they can be more open to themselves. So I'm not trying to show them to be like someone else. I'm just trying to get them to look at themselves as such, be able to observe themselves. Because if you can figure out where you are, who you are, where you stand, it's a lot easier to get by in the day rather than following or copying someone else. Because that is just, I mean, it's killing. That's what causes a lot of people anxiety, I think, trying to be like something else. Trying to be someone else.
And like you say, when that's removed, whether it be that comparison of another person that you're trying to be like, or if it's a job that's been removed through retirement, what are you then left with, and where are you going to derive your sense of self from?
Yeah, exactly. And what is the sense of self? This is the big question. You know,
tell us.
Who am I? What is a sense of self? For me, it's good enough that I wake up and I feel great and I can say something to myself like, I feel great. Today I feel like I'm going to be able to do some good in the world. And this is where it all comes a bit sort of woo-woo and new age. What am I here to do? Am I here to serve others? Am I here to just live a life of having Botox and my lips done? What am I here to do? And I think this is a big thing, the purpose thing. You know, what is my purpose? And if we can think about that, if each one of us can think about that, if we discover that, well, fantastic, because then we can work towards it. If we're not discovering it, then we just need to work harder to discover it. Because if we never do, then we're just going around doing anything.
And can people's purpose change?
For sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how do you think your purpose has changed over the years?
Well, I think my purpose has always been, I've always been a kind person, because that's on my list of core values. You know, one of the things that I think is really important for people is to know what their core values are. If we can take some time to discover what's really important to us, and we can align those core values with what we do in our lives, then we find symmetry with that, and that gives you a lot of peace. If you're constantly working against your core values, you'll always find yourself anxious. So, for example, if you're being set upon by someone as such, and when I say set upon, if someone's being rude and horrible to you, if it's on the list of your core values very high up, that you don't like people being impolite, you don't like them being rude, you don't like injustice, that will really make you feel uncomfortable. Whereas others, perhaps if you've got someone who has a very big ego and they're very full of themselves, they might not find that offensive. So, does that make sense? It's a question of what is important to you and who you surround yourself with and what you do in your life. So.
I always think it is the most important question for one to ask themselves is what is your purpose?
Yeah.
Because I always say, if you don't know your purpose, what's the point? I was so fortunate. I did a Tony Robbins course when I was
Fantastic.
20 years old in lockdown.
Yeah.
And the main takeaway from that course was why, purpose, who are you?
Yeah.
What do you want to do?
Yeah.
How do you construct a life that you want to live? And then that led me to start Barn. It gave me the inspiration. Like Tony, I think, is one of the best in the world at doing such a thing.
I agree, yeah.
But, you know, sometimes I piss people off by asking them, like, why? So what is your purpose? What is your drive in life? And some people can get offended by that sometimes because they might not know what it is.
That's why they're offended.
Exactly.
That's exactly why they're offended.
So how would you work around that? Like, have you ever asked people, you know, what's your purpose? Like, find that out and they get defensive?
What I tend to do when I'm working with people is I want to find out what their core values are. So if I give them a list of 50 things and I say, look, I'm going to give you a list of 50 things. Have a look through these things and just choose maybe 7 Choose 7 of them. Or if there's something else that comes up that's really important, add that to the list. If you can get them to do that, that really helps people realize what's important to them. So then asking them what's your purpose is a little bit like saying, hey, go up a mountainside, without doing the single steps. If you ask them, what are your core values, that kind of is a lot more helpful, because then they don't feel quite so, sort of set upon. If you ask someone straight up, what's your purpose, and they really don't know, they're definitely going to get offensive. Or be like defensive. Sorry, they're going to get defensive.
Yeah. And I think questions like that, if you can sit beside someone and kind of open up the door in the right way.
Yeah.
I guess it depends how receptive someone is.
Yeah.
To the questioning. When you talk about you're not working with every client that you see initially.
Yeah.
Is there such a thing as the right time to start a mindfulness practice?
Totally.
Because from personal experience, when I was a kid, we had mindfulness as an extra class in school.
Fantastic. Yeah.
It was fantastic, but I hated it. I just got kicked out.
Really?
I got asked to leave.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I got,
okay.
yeah.
Rebel.
I wish it was rebelling.
Yeah.
It was me and my friend Dan, and we just couldn't take things seriously when everyone was like feet on floor, bum on chair, start breathing, and we just bursting out laughing. And it was the only class where the teacher literally said to us, he said, guys, you don't actually have to come to this class. Like, we don't want you disrupting it, because it's very different than actually learning in other subjects.
Yeah.
And we thought it was an absolute blessing just to leave, and we ended up just not going for the rest of the year to this class, and we thought it was great.
Yeah.
Fast forward, and that's what I mean, like in that moment I was definitely not receptive to kind of opening my mind to even entertaining the idea of mindfulness. I kind of looked at it as, there are things that have served me, which is up to that point is just like hard work, maybe trying to make jokes, other stuff that like sitting and being uncomfortable, it just didn't fit. I just didn't see the value in it. And for me, I then, once I left school and once the kind of everything, because my school was pretty fast paced for me,
right? Like
six days a week, just pretty intense. Finished school, and in that summer I felt like everything had caught up to me. Right. And I then had, when I was 18, more of a that kind of like epiphany. You are accessing more the present moment and everything catching up.
Right.
And at that point, then, although I was more afraid of that moment because it was really uncomfortable, it has developed into something which I prioritize almost.
Right.
Prioritize coming back to the present and taking deep breaths and just a more allowing things to catch up to me deliberately. So that's which is why I kind of have in my mind is when is the right time? Is there a right time for people?
Well, getting back to the working with people and whether or not I take them on as a client, and timing is everything. Often what will happen is someone will come and they'll say, I'd like to do one-to-one mindfulness. But then after asking them a number of questions or doing their core values, I can see that they're not ready. And being ready for something or being open to it is the beginning of it. If you're not open to it, then you're not going to be able to do it, or you won't want to do it, and that's the other thing. I often ask someone, do you think you really want to do this? Because actually that's the question. No one has to do anything. I think it's also, there are a number of ways round it. As I said before, mindfulness is not just the one thing. So sometimes someone will think that they want to do one thing, but that's actually not what they want to do. They want to do something else. So it's just a question of being aware of the person. I mean, as a practitioner, I can tell when someone is ready and when they're not. They may not be able to, but then I may be able to do something else with them to then get them to see another way round, So.
when you were younger, would you say you were naturally more mindful?
More mindful than now?
Yeah.
No, I think I'm more mindful now because I'm a lot slower than I was before. I was like you, I was always wanting to get into the next thing, you know, and big dreams, which I still have really big dreams, but now I can pace myself a little bit more, and I can see things more clearly because I came from quite a difficult background. My sister was, and still is actually, a very narcissistic and domineering person, and as she took care of me most of the time, it was quite difficult getting out of her shadow. She cast quite a long shadow, so that was always quite difficult, and always trying to sort of prove myself. I was a middle child as well. And we had a few stepbrothers who my mother adopted. So, you know, it was all quite tricky. There was hectic, a lot going on. Whereas now I don't have so many hectic things around me because I haven't put myself in a position to be hectic. You know, I don't have difficult relationships with people. I'm really mindful of who I surround myself with, actually. I think it's really important. Very important that we stop and take check as to who is influencing us, who we live with, what we say to the people around us, and how we conduct ourselves. That's a really important point. And so even from a mindfulness perspective, if I'm speaking to a person, one of the first things I will ask them is, who do you live with? You know, what do you do, and what's the relationship with the people around you? Because, you know, often you'll find people are living with very toxic people, or they'll have a toxic situation at work, and they're so busy trying to get over it and trying to deal with it and their anxiety that they're not able to actually even become mindful because there's just too much pollution around them. So that's important.
That's why I like living on my own.
Well, that's, again, it's a matter of, you know, core values. Whether or not you're with someone who has the same sorts of core values as you, and whether they're in the same position, because if they are, you'll probably find you're more aligned with them. You know, just looking at someone, sometimes the look of them is something that you like, but the reality is that underneath it all, you don't really get along so well. And to spend a lot of energy having to try to make someone else or make yourself be different for someone else is taking away from you finding out who you are and discovering who you are. Yeah.
I've always been a big on, you know, you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Yes.
And
interesting.
For me, I've been fortunate enough just working as a personal trainer. You're naturally kind of around people who've done quite well for themselves, who can afford personal kind of training and kind of taking advantage of that. I'm a very curious person. I also ask a lot of questions, purely because I'm just interested and I give a shit. Like about people and
it's good. You know, you give a shit. Yeah,
well, you know, it's just I do. So it's
important.
You can kind of just pull information out of them and learn. And I've learned an awful lot from personal training. Just from I'm asking good questions, I suppose. Especially like starting my business so young, I had no idea what I was doing, but I just had successful businessmen and women around me where I was like, oh, what would you do if this happened? Or how did you get to that?
Yes.
So it's kind of being really resourceful with what you have, but also being constantly around people that are doing better than you. My inspiration is like, I want to get to that level, or, you know, you want to get there. Well, if they did that, I could do that. I could probably do that. I might even be better than them at doing that. Do you know what I mean? That's the way my brain works. But it's kind of all goes down to, like, in that school, getting caught in a bad group of people can really set you down that path. And have you had any experience with that, with relatives, with friends, with people you've worked with, where you're just like, you need to get away from these toxic people?
Well, I mean, I found in the end with the styling, I mean, that really, the entertainment business is a poisonous business. It really is, because a lot of it is fake. You know, so you'll see these people on camera and they look wonderful and they seem wonderful and they seem to do fantastic things, yet underneath it all, they're really not very good people, and they're surrounded by people who are also not very good people. So the whole thing is a facade. And if you get caught up in that and you believe that too, you can either become part of it or not. And I think being exposed to it on a daily basis is not healthy, which was one of the main reasons that I actually took a different direction and started doing the mindfulness and the meditation and teaching others about it. Because I've found since doing that, my purpose, again, you asked about purpose changing, my purpose has really been able to be fulfilled, because with the styling, it, to a certain degree it was, but it really wasn't and doesn't get filled, because what I'm doing is not really helping anyone. I'm putting clothes on them. You know?
And also if you see that the environment is toxic and you feel like that it's not aligned with your true values, then you're kind of propagating something which you're not really behind as well.
Yeah, exactly.
What I'm interested about is, what would you say to someone who is in an environment that they're not aligned with, the environment is potentially, you know, toxic, the workplace, you have people that you just don't get along with. If they can't remove themselves from the environment, what advice would you give to people if it is a financial lock-in or something else which is not as easily escapable from? What sort of advice would you give to them?
Well, I think it depends. I mean, to say that one can't escape from something, I think everyone can escape. It's a question of what you want to do. So, I mean, if you're in a financial situation where you think, I can't move from that, well, why can't you move from that? Perhaps you can re-educate yourself in the evening online. You can think about what it is that you really would like to do and re-educate yourself and then do something different. And if you can't do that, then I guess you've got to decide, what is it that's making this so untenable? Is it because I'm now trying to run along with everyone else and I'm expecting things of myself that I'm not capable of doing? Or am I trying to please someone else? And of course, the point is, you will never please anyone else. So that's the big thing to be aware of. No matter what you do, you can't influence how someone else sees you or what they think of you. You might think that you can, so that's a lot of sort of people pleasing and that sort of thing, but actually all that energy spent trying to be appealing to others or trying to do something in order for to be validated is one of the major things that causes people stress and anxiety. If you can be proud of what it is that you do, your contribution to wherever it is you are, if you can be proud of that and you can be happy of that or with that, then that's a big step forwards. So it's really a matter, again, of self. What's going on here? Why don't I like this? For example, someone that I know, he works for a company. He hates them. He's been doing it for 32 years.
Oh my goodness.
So in a way, he's like a hostage, you know, he's a prisoner of being there, trying to get everyone to like him, being too fearful to go anywhere else. So now, because he's got so tied up in all of that, he now can't move anywhere else. And he's also predicting, well, if I go somewhere else, will it be the same? So these are all things that we do to ourselves, you know, and if we can just stop and think, what do I really want to do with my life? Because it's not long, is it? You know, no. I mean, as far as we know, I mean, all three of us are here now, but we might not be shortly. So to waste our lives doing things, trying to validate ourselves through others and trying to do that sort of thing will only bring unhappiness and sadness. So it's really important to get what your core values are, figure out what you want to do in your life and do it. Like, do it.
And that's the main thing that I hear is that, you know, your response to my question straight away, it's about agency and about you can get out of situations.
Yes.
You just need to understand the underlying kind of motivation and purpose for it. Another thing that I hear from what you've just said is is our kind of desire for force and forcing things and controlling things. What sort of role does forcing and controlling have in meditation, and how does it, tie into, obviously we have a desire to achieve stuff, but do they come up against each other?
Well, the biggest thing, for example, with meditation, and we were saying this before we were on camera, was a lot of people say, I can't meditate. In fact, most people say they can't meditate. And of course, the question is, when was the last time you did it? And what happened when you did it the last time? And most of the time the answer is, well, I haven't actually done it, but I've seen someone doing it. So, they've seen someone there with the joss sticks and with the incense sticks, actually, and with the long hair, and it's all going really wonderfully woo-woo. And actually, sometimes if I'm doing a class, I can see I'm looking because I'm just observing what's going on. And sometimes I'll see someone going like this, because they're looking to see if I'm looking or to see if something's going on.
And do you stare at them like a hawk? Like,
no, I normally look at them and smile. And so trying to do something, or trying to force yourself to do something that you think maybe you should be doing because it's cool, or maybe someone's told you that's what you should do, can always be a difficult thing, because the expectation and thinking, oh, this is going to be wonderful, often won't be wonderful, because you're so busy thinking, should I be feeling like this? Should I be feeling like that? Why are they still? Why do I keep feeling like scratching my nose, or I feel like sneezing? So actually just being there and just breathing. The breath is a really big thing. If you can, whenever you're under any kind of stress, or even if you think I'm trying to do something, to just stop and breathe and focus on your breath. Even if you're just breathing in for 4 seconds, breathing out for 6 seconds, just stopping and doing that, even for a minute, can often help you feel less stressed. So forcing, whenever you're trying to force something, it's highly unlikely that you're actually going to be able to achieve it. Just being, and just being in the present, being in the now, not trying too hard, will often give you a much better result.
And I feel like, force, another word that I find for force is then kind of like resistance.
Yeah.
In the sense of like in the gym and in your mind as well.
Yeah.
And when I found that I've tried to resist something in the past, it always comes back stronger.
Yes.
Because I'm trying, maybe because previously it has, me trying harder has had the outcome that I wanted. And so I can then try it with meditation, and I can use it in the same way. But I find with meditation and mindfulness is the more that I resist something, the stronger it comes back on.
Yeah,
which is annoying, really annoying.
I mean, it's a practice. Meditation is a practice. And the more you practice it, you will find it becomes easier. So what I find with meditation is, don't say, right, I'm going to go, listen to me, don't say. Actually, if you say to yourself, I'm going to practice this for 3 minutes, I'm going to practice this for 5 minutes, rather than going into a contortion, sitting in a room, trying to clear your mind. The idea is not to clear your mind. The idea is to observe what's happening. So if you sit there and then you notice, oh, well, actually, I've got a pain in my knee, or I feel a bit uncomfortable, or it's a bit cold, just noticing that, even within just noticing that is a form of actually being able to let go, rather than thinking, oh, I mustn't move, I mustn't do this, I mustn't do that, because that's not meditating. Who knows what meditating is? I mean, meditating can be anything. It can be looking at something and just paying attention to that.
So do you think you can get into meditative states without consciously trying to meditate?
Yes.
And what would be examples of that?
Well, I think an example could be almost like, they call it, what do they call it with children? They call it, I think it call it micronapping or something. Sometimes you look at children and they're gazing off somewhere, and You have no idea what they're thinking about.
Yeah, kind of like daydreaming.
Yeah, and I mean, we can do that ourselves. We do it throughout the day. You know, when you talk about hypnotherapy and people say, oh, I can't be hypnotized, same thing, I can't meditate. We're doing it all day long. Sometimes we'll just sit there and we won't be doing anything particular. And that actually is like a micro meditation. It's just a way of just sitting, observing something.
You know, I had the sound bowls where you hit it and go like that. Mm-hmm. My friend Sam's father had one, and I got into a weird trance-like state where I was doing it for honestly 15 minutes straight, just trying to perfect the vibration of it. Oh,
okay.
And Sam's father was listening to me doing it, and he was sat in the room. I was completely unaware if he. And he was on his iPad. Mm-hmm. And after about 15 minutes, he said, Guy, and I couldn't even hear him say it. And then he said, Guy, loudly again. And I looked up at him, and he was like, what the heck? You know, you've been doing that for 50. And I was so focused on trying to get the perfect and trying to get it as loud as possible.
Fantastic.
But that was kind of that was all I was thinking about. Would that be meditation, or would that be just hyper focus on something? Because I wasn't thinking about anything other than the sound. Is that meditation? Or where did my mind transcend to in that moment? Was it the sound? Was it?
Well, what do you think?
I think the sound had, it had an effect on me, right? Yeah. And there's certain vibrations and noises that can kind of calm the mind. But for me, I felt like I was doing it for maybe 3 minutes.
Okay.
So time obviously passed differently. But that was kind of the only time I've really kind of felt almost like an outer body experience without using any performance enhancing drugs, if you know what I mean. So it's
PEDs for meditation.
I don't know what you mean.
Meditation EPO.
I was just kind of so whenever I think about kind of because for me I've always thought of meditation as I need to clear my mind and not thinking about anything. Yeah. But your perspective is a complete shift of that. It's no, you need to observe yourself and observe your feelings and why you're feeling that, and that becomes a lot more interesting to me, because I've heard, I'm not big on meditation. I'm just a very go-get-it person, mm-hmm. and the thought that is so much more interesting to me, of observing myself and my thoughts. Right, I guess journaling, I do that.
Yeah.
Probably not I go through phases, so I probably don't do it enough. But yeah, trying to clear my mind, that's no interest.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also with mindfulness, it's not so, the observation is not so much why do I feel like that, it's just I feel like that.
I see.
So it's rather than sort of putting a label on it and saying, oh, I've got a knee ache. I've got a knee ache because of so-and-so. No, it's just I've got a knee ache. And then your mind goes on to something else. And then on to something else. And just the fact that that's happening and the thoughts are coming in and they're going out, that within itself is enough. I tend to, when I'm doing a mindfulness session, I think you probably know this, I start off with, I've got some scents, like all different aromatherapy scents, and I've also got some different coloured fabrics. So I get people to focus on the colour of the fabric. They choose the fabric that they like, or a texture and the colour that they're attracted to. And then we stop and we notice the scent. So people will be smelling the scent, and they might even talk to each other about it. But at that moment, they're not thinking about, oh, should I be doing my spreadsheet? Or should I be here or should I be there? They're thinking about the scent. So it's all a way of just attracting each one of your senses to pay attention in a particular way. So it's the same thing. It's going back to the mindfulness of paying attention to the thing at hand. And if actually you're thinking of that and you're thinking of something else, well, that's quite clever, but that's okay also. Everything is actually okay, rather than being so being so kind of like new age, and my mind is free. I don't think anyone's mind is ever like that. I know that people do get to a trance state sometimes, but that's after a lot of practice, many years of practice. The advantage of this is that if you are really super driven, mindfulness is a fantastic thing because it really helps you to focus. So if you can then turn that focus and that attention to your business, you'll find you'll be so much more powerful. You won't be so scattered because you'll be able to turn your attention to the thing that needs attending to rather than all over the shop.
Yeah, I think that's something I really need to work on.
Yeah.
Probably a lot of people need to work on, right?
Well, I think we all do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it'd be helpful for all of us, yeah.
It goes back to kind of what I said about running earlier and people saying, oh, I can't meditate or I can't practice mindfulness, and you never try, but it is a skill you adopt, I suppose. It's like you wouldn't be able to just run a marathon, so why are you expecting to meditate for an hour?
Exactly.
So it's incrementally building it up over time as you improve.
Yeah. And also, the more you practice it, the more you can bring it into your daily life. So when you do become a lot more mindful and you can focus a lot easier, even just driving down the street with some knob in front of you getting on your nerves.
Honestly, best example that I always give. Yeah, it's just traffic.
Okay. So, that's fine.
Yeah.
Even that, you can bring it into all areas of your life, even to paying attention to what you're eating. What am I eating now? Paying attention to that, just being more present, being more mindful. It improves the quality of your life.
Yeah.
Very much so.
I sometimes stress people out because I'm not stressed. do you know what I mean? So, like, for instance, the airport isn't a very stressful experience for me. But when I'm around people who do get stressed by the airport, it stresses them out that I'm not stressed. How would you react in that situation?
You're not matching them on their level.
Well, I often say to people, look, what you, sometimes things that are negative, they're things that you're used to. Mm-hmm. This is the way that you have survived in your life, and you've done this, so that's a habit. So you continue to do it. So when you get stressed about something, I'm so stressed about this, oh my goodness, I'm so stressed about that. And they go from one stress to another, and then they try to draw us in, because if they've got company, that makes it all super stressed. And so even though it's something that's negative, they're comfortable in their uncomfortableness. So it's not until they do something more mindful that they notice that part of them, and they notice that that's not making them happy, but this may be making them happy. So it's just a matter of turning attention and not getting sucked into it. So actually, for someone who is very stressed, maybe being around you when you're not so stressed, if they can just turn their attention to that rather than that, that'll actually help them. But you have to want to do that, because if you don't want to, it's a little bit like, when someone has a really bad habit and they want to continue that habit. You can say, well, no, they're an addict, they can't change it. Actually, they probably can, but it's a matter of changing their focus to something else. And they're going to have to keep practicing it to be able to do that.
Do you think happiness is a choice?
Yes.
Why?
Well, I had to think about that for a moment, because the question's an interesting one, because what is happiness? And to whom? What makes one person happy may not make another person happy. Because if they're already involved with something that is, maybe to us we wouldn't find that happy, it's what they're used to. So maybe they're happy in their unhappiness. For me, happiness is very much feeling
happy in their unhappiness.
Yes.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Rachel, what do you mean by that? Just for guys.
So, for example, let's use an example of someone. We'll do two examples. I had a client who was always having relationships with women who they were quite kind of fly and gorgeous, but they were always running him around, and they were always cheating on him, and they were always making him look like an idiot, and he was always chasing after them, and he just carried on doing that. And the fact that he was doing all that chasing and constantly trying to get them to like him and to change and whatever, he was happy in his unhappiness. He was unhappy about it. And he was always telling everybody, oh my God, she really coated me off and she did this and she did that. And he'd get all involved in all of that. But actually it wasn't really making him happy, but he was happy with the chase.
Uh-huh.
And it's like when you get a girl, oh, he treated me like this and he did this to me, yet they still choose the same person. So they continue to do the same cycle. And so you could say, oh, are they unhappy or happy? That's the question. Are they happy doing that? Can they change? Do they want to change?
Is it like a bit of Stockholm syndrome?
Well, that in that example,
the sense of
yes.
With your own, your happiness, your unhappiness is your kind of prison guards. Safety. And you end up being, safe. You heard of Stockholm syndrome?
Yeah, I have, but please elaborate. I forget. It's
like when you start to enjoy the company and make friends with someone who has like imprisoned you.
Oh, I remember. Yeah. And it sometimes happens in like abusive relationships, right?
Yeah, it can do.
But
yes. It can do. And look, it all links to even what you do in your life. What your job is. If you hate your job when you go to work every single day, why do you hate your job? Figure out why you hate your job and then do something about it, or don't. Because you may actually, that's what you're used to. You're not brave enough, and you need to become more brave to make a change. And of course, if you're stuck with that and you think that you can't do anything else, you won't be able to do anything else. So this comes back again to awareness.
I think I've become happy with my unhappiness with the weather recently.
It's blowing a gale outside.
Yeah.
I can't believe you mentioned the weather on every single episode.
It's English. What do you want?
It's really quite fantastic today, the weather.
It really is quite fantastic. I lived in Switzerland for a number of years, and I lived at the top of a mountain, and it was like this pretty much most days. And then in the afternoon, it was sort of burn off. And what it did for me was when I came back to England, it made me appreciate this sort of weather, because I thought, well, it's just weather. It will pass. You know, it will pass. This is that time of year. Everything is sleeping for a moment, because actually what it's doing, it's rejuvenating itself. So all the leaves have fallen, and we can be like that too in this time of year. We can hibernate a little bit. We can do different things. If we can be more flexible with our lives and with ourselves, and more open to seeing things, that could be the root of happiness too.
Yeah. So let's go back into the happiness thing, because I got really I got really kind of caught up. The cogs are going on happiness and within the unhappiness. But so what is true happiness then?
What is it to you?
Is it? I guess it's waking up with energy, achieving something. For me, very goal driven. That's just, if I've worked, but I kind of find joy. But the thing is, I achieve something, I'm kind of somewhat happy, but I probably found more joy in trying to achieve it than achieving the goal itself. Okay. Which is so kind of achieve something. I'm like, okay, that's cool. Well, what's next? Let's try and do that next thing. So do I find true happiness in achieving something? Probably not, but I probably find more happiness in the process of achieving things.
Okay.
It's very, I'm very just performance focused person. That's just, I guess, the way my brain works. Mm-hmm. But I do somewhat enjoy moments within that. But yeah, I think waking up healthy, energetic, confident, that for me is happiness and working towards something. Yeah. That would be the outcome though. Well, no, my happiness would be the outcome of that happening.
Okay.
So is it just an emotion that is related to things? I don't know if I can unpick that.
I love this. I've seen a whole story there that all went round, and I love that. Happiness is just being in the moment, I guess.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there we go. Because now I'm happy.
Yeah.
Now I've came to the solution of what my happiness is. So I've just achieved the goal. So I guess I am now.
You are happy.
and I think for a lot of people it would be,
I love that.
It's their route to unlocking the present moment.
Yeah.
So my personally would be more like, how can I have more access to the present moment? And if I find day to day that I'm stressed or thinking too much, even in a positive or a negative way, then I will work out ways where I can make more space so that I can, you know, be more at peace. And for you, then maybe the clearing of other stuff to have that focus of, you know, being energetic and getting things done and having that focus, that is for you uncovering how you can experience the present moment more, potentially.
Yeah. And I think constantly chasing things actually can make us unhappy if we don't capture them. But what you said that was quite interesting was that you do capture them. So you think about it and then you do it. And that's a good thing. You liked the process of getting to it, but you have done it. Whereas for a lot of people, I think they're chasing something out there. You know, when you're constantly chasing something out there, that's really hard, because if you can start in here, this is the only part that we really get to know. We don't know anything else. We think we do, but we don't, because we can't have an effect over the outcome. But what we can have an effect on is our own behavior, what we do, how we think about something. So for me, what makes me feel much happier is knowing that I am aware of what I'm doing at this moment. I'm aware of what I'm going to do next. That makes me feel happy, rather than being on autopilot, just doing anything just because I feel like I have to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it really does.
No,
I think I've just found the secret to happiness just now. I think talking about happiness makes me happy.
makes you happy, exactly.
Yeah. Charles Xavier, what makes you happy?
Yeah.
Looking into my eyes.
Looking into my eyes.
I think it is for me, is just acting in line with my values.
Yeah.
And for me, it is, especially at the moment when, let's say I've got this injury at the moment and I don't have access to the main thing, but every session and everything that I'll do, cross training or rehab and stuff, it's just a reflection of kind of how I see myself as consistent, and basically giving myself a chance at getting better, like physically. And when I feel, we talked about it before briefly, is happiness as a kind of elative emotion. For me, I don't have a huge amount of it.
Okay.
But I have a lot more kind of peace and calm. And I don't know if it's necessarily, it could be because I don't have access to the kind of ecstatic side of happiness that I prefer, because it's much more easily accessible for me to just go for the peace, because I'm better at that.
Yeah.
Say. But I prefer to be more kind of aware and less rushed than completely beaming, all systems go. And it is just being fully immersed in that moment. Like I love, we're talking about things kind of like escapism on one of the other episodes, and I didn't have a huge amount of things to let's say like escape, which interesting word. But for me, when I feel the most connected to myself and to the present moment is when I'm in a high intensity like session, running session, bike session, anything where I've got my heart rate up, I can notice my thoughts, but I have a loose grip on them, and I have everything working with me. So even the thoughts that are negative in my session, let's say when things get tough and I start to maybe have these doubts that I've gone out a bit too hard, or I can't keep up the pace that I want to be at, or I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish a session. The ability for me to notice that in the moment, have a loose grip, and understand the signal through evidence that I've done before and built proof that I have been able to endure and to kind of overcome those kind of sessions. In the moment when I feel that those thoughts, the negative thoughts, aren't working against me, but they're actually directions to work with me. Wow. That's when I feel the most powerful in the moment, and the emotion that I kind of enjoy the most, which is kind of flow and peace.
Fantastic. Wow.
He's got it a lot.
Conversation, guys.
I know. My answer was pretty pathetic compared to that, right?
It's not a competition.
Go on, compare yourself. Go on, start comparing.
If you want, you can come on the ski erg with me after this.
Let me define what sadness is now, you know.
It's fantastic. No, it's fantastic. I mean, all of these views are absolutely fantastic because they're all being aware. And this is the thing, you know, for me as a mindfulness practitioner, this is all I'm trying to get people to do. Just notice this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, actually stop for long enough to notice it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
It's really interesting how so pre this podcast, I was outside putting myself through hell doing a run. Which Charlie programmed for me because I got a half marathon coming up.
Someone would put one in for me.
And I was just thinking, oh my goodness, like, okay, I need to revamp my energy.
Right.
But just quality conversation, how much energy it can give you and how impact on mood.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, a lot of the time, if you're in a bit of I wasn't necessarily in a negative headspace. I was just exhausted. And it was just like, but the thing I always try and remind myself of is like, energy is there. You just need to be able to harness it somehow and tapping into that. And I'm sure you're very aware of it. You could be in a negative headspace, think you're really tired. Oh no, I'm not going to have a productive day. I can't do this. But sometimes it might be a song. It might be a conversation. And all of a sudden you're fired up and ready to go. How do you think people can harness that through mindfulness or practice? Perhaps if they don't have those resources, if they don't have a song, if they don't have a conversation, like what sort of self-talk can people do to find that energy from within, which they currently kind of don't have because they're in the wrong state of mind?
Well, I think, you know, we're all in different states of minds throughout the day.
Yeah.
Every single one of us. You know, the slightest thing can trigger you to be into a bit of a funny mood. And if you're not practicing mindfulness or if you're not aware of it, those ups and downs can be a lot more constant. One of the things that I like to do with people who have no recollection or nothing to do with mindfulness is a quick reset. And I've said this before, it's literally, and this is probably the thing you used to run away from in class, which is a reset. Just stop for a moment, notice 5 things. Notice 5 things. Look at 5 things. Label those 5 things. Think about them just literally for a second. Take a few deep breaths and start again.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very simple. It's, you know, we're going to be in funny moods, good moods, bad moods. We're going to be like that. We're human, and this is what happens. And this is why I think with mindfulness, if you can practice it, it's much easier then to get back into a good shape as such. Also, noticing the good things in life. You know, there's this whole thing about gratitude, which I think all sounds a bit sort of wanky, quite frankly, but just to describe it, gratitude really is just a way of thinking about the great things that you do have in your life, even your eyesight, you know, being able to see. Imagine if you woke up and you couldn't see. You know, I mean, my dog went blind, and I mean, I never forget the day he went blind. It was just the most horrible thing. But then within a few days, the other dogs were running around with him, and I could see he could kind of figure out where he was going. But just the simple things in life that we do have that are fantastic, to even give thanks for those every single day, 5 of them, 5 different things every day.
Yeah, no, it's like gratitude and expressing that frequently is I guess that kind of goes back to Tony, what I've learned from him all those years back. But that's something that, you know, trading expectation for appreciation is a kind of
very much so huge.
So I never really have any expectations of holidays or experiences I'm going to go on now. I just kind of appreciate it's going to happen. Whatever happens. It could be amazing. You know, might not. But if I go in with so much expectation, this is going to be the best day ever. This is going to be the best, you know, you can kind of like, it kills the experience, right?
It can do. I mean, again, it's the attachment to it. You know, it's what you think it's going to be, and then it's not that. But actually, the thing that it's not could be better than the thing you thought it was going to be. So it could be that. It might not be. And even if it's not, again, we're getting back to this, it's okay. It's okay to have failures. We're going to have failures. And it's great to have success. We're going to have successes. So the fact that we have both of those things, and it's the same with mindfulness with your training, to just allow yourself to be doing your training and be in that moment knowing that you're doing it, that's a great thing, rather than all this, I must do this, I must do that, and putting too much pressure. That's the other thing.
Where does kind of the idea of priming come into it then? So priming, you know, setting the conditions, or shifting a state maybe so you're more attuned to an outcome. What's the kind of relationship between priming and expectations?
Well, I think it's really interesting because I don't know whether you find this relative, but this morning I was talking to some women about balance, and I said to them, right, hold on to this chair, just put your hand on this chair, and the foot that's on the ground, notice it, imagine that it's roots, and tell yourself, today my balance is going to be excellent. Today my balance is going to be excellent. Today my balance is going to be excellent. Now lift your other foot, and now let go of the chair. And all of them just let go of it, and were standing there. And I was a bit like, really? Amazing.
It works. I was just joking. You're like, oh, this is the first time it's worked.
Well, actually, it's kind of like an affirmation kind of thing. My balance will be great. And actually, it really has nothing to do with it, because a lot of it is actually practice. How much you practice at something, the more you practice, obviously, the better you get at it. But I just think it depends who the individual is. So the priming, are we talking about priming, preparation, this is what I'm expecting myself to do? I guess a lot of that is also relative to how much you've done it before. If you've never done it before, you might be pretty shit at it. Mm-hmm. You might.
Yeah. Well, the thing that comes to my mind is when I went to visit my brother, he lives out in Dubai, and went to visit him maybe 2-3 years ago. And he told us, we played some golf, and we were at the Emirates Golf Club. Fantastic. Lovely. Like facility, so nice. And he was saying for the couple of days building up to it, and I knew he was doing it, but I wanted to follow on. I noticed it. I knew
you were observing.
I was observing. I was like, I know he's playing the game. But he was saying the showers afterwards that you're going to have in the changing room, these are the best showers that I have ever been in. Like the water pressure, the experience, everything about that changing room, and everything, especially after like a hot day of golf, because it was still 30 degrees in November out there. And I knew he was doing some sort of priming for us, right, to set an expectation. But when I came to it, because he'd prepared me to almost have more awareness of it, rather than me go in and randomly have a shower and be like, cool, and he's like, how was a shower? I'm like, oh, it was a shower. Like I've got myself up for it, and it did meet the expectations.
Oh,
it was good. Well, it was great.
I thought it was just going to be like a golden shower sort of thing.
No, it's not the kind of show. Right.
Well, no, it could have been,
hilarious.
Terrible.
Yeah, if that's what Sam's into,
Hilarious.
Some old bloke stood on the top of a ladder.
Sam's in the shower. Surprise.
Yeah, but people will pay a lot for that. This is again that thing, isn't it? Is it advertising? So what are we doing? Are we saying, hey, do mindfulness, and then your whole life will be incredible and it will change? Don't know. Depends who's looking.
See, that's what I find fascinating about mindfulness, and see words that pretty get overused, maybe diluted, and they lose that emphasis that the experience gives you, that the word can't. Like we talk about your buzzwords with consistency, or motivation, or discipline, or all of that sort of stuff. It doesn't quite represent. Just language in general doesn't quite represent the actual thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
But words get diluted and might be hijacked by a marketing agency, might get tarnished, a bad name. you've hinted with the word gratitude being a bit wanky.
Yeah.
What sort of words to reframe them or to give them a better branding, basically? What parts of mindfulness and the practice that people normally are resistant to because of the word itself, would you reframe to give it a better representation of the experience?
Well, first of all, I think the whole word mindfulness I would change, because it's not it's not mindful, is it? We're not actually trying to get our mind full. We're just observing. So, I mean, I think that's the first thing. I find the word relaxation, don't really like that, but I do find that when I speak to people about relaxation, come along and do some relaxation. If I say to them, come along and do some mindfulness, or come along and do some meditation, I get that, oh no, I've never done that before. Relaxing, come along and look out the window. Oh, all right.
Okay. What's out the window? Yeah.
Come along and eat some chocolate. Come along and smell something nice. Come along and have a look at a colour. Just anything that is not threatening. Because as I was saying before, the mind tends to protect the body. And so if you say something to someone that they don't know anything about, most of the time, unless you've got someone who's a bit of a, kind of like a junkie, adrenaline junkie, someone who's like that, most people will be a little bit fearful. So to just say, come along and see what happens, anything like that, just kind of, however you do it, just to not make it something that people think they already know about, like meditation. People think they know about that already because it's had such a big marketing thing. So I guess if you're speaking to an individual, anything that you think that might encourage them would be the way forward, I think. Look, we've had this situation here, I think, with the barn gym. People come along here to get fit and to, get toned and do weights and this and that. When we say to them, come and do some meditation, they're like, no thanks.
Yeah. And it's similar, like yoga was quite a hard introduction, but Sophie's found her crowd here, which has been great. But it's like results are one in the mind first. We talk about visualization, and how important that is. And so many times in my life, I've had to visualize me doing something before I do it first, and everything. Right. I think everything kind of starts with belief first, then action, then the results follow. But I guess it's a way of it's finding maybe perhaps a new word for it. That's what I'm trying to kind of come up with it right now. Like you have proprioception, whereas being aware of where your body is. But is there a word for being aware of your mind? Is there a thing for that? Is it?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Because it depends. You see, you have people who are visual. Yeah. So often, you can tell that someone is visual when they're always talking about the things that they've seen. They say, oh, I saw such and such thing. Or you've got people who, they hear things. So they say, oh, I hear that so-and-so did this, so they're sound motivated. And this is where it is a little bit tricky, because are you speaking to someone who is a visual person, or are you speaking to someone who actually hears things? So then with for example, the chimes and all the bells and the sound baths to me just sounds really odd. What do they mean, sound baths? What, you're in the baths and then you hear a sound? Or it's a bowl. It's not a bath, is it?
Yeah.
So no. I wouldn't want to go to that, because it's a sound bath, and I don't know what they want me to do. Do they want me to go in something, like a bucket sort of thing, and then hear? So I do.
Well, that's something maybe. What about those sound bowls? Imagine you put water in it, and then you have a really big donger, and you lay in there and you vibrate in the water. Maybe there's something in that, Rachel.
Well, maybe. I mean, personally, I find it very annoying, the sound.
You have some ducks in there?
Yeah, why not? A duck bath. Yeah, I mean, I guess when we're talking about marketing, we're talking about the result that someone gets from it. So perhaps to talk about how someone will feel after. But then it depends who you're speaking to again, because not everyone goes on feelings.
So I guess, so if we were to, right, we got Barn Gym, right, and many other gyms.
Yeah.
People are highly motivated to untap their physical performance and like see their potential. But as we discussed earlier, results are really won in the mind first. You need to be in the right mindset in order to achieve those results. Is there a way of, and this might not just be for physical performance, but, you know, work-related performance, is there a way of phrasing it that actually come to my classes, unlock the potential of the mind so you can actually perform better? Is that perhaps a better way of framing mindfulness to people, where they actually realize, well, by being more mindful, I'm going to be more present, I'm going to be more productive, I'm going to achieve more things. That outcome is probably more sellable in a sense. Do you see what I mean?
Well, I do. And I mean, in lots of respects, one should say that mindfulness should be compulsory when you come to the gym. You're not allowed to come to the gym unless you do mindfulness.
Yeah.
It's your entry.
Because actually, if you think about it in terms of fitness, you are missing a huge part of what actually makes it all work.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if you don't have the mindset for it, and if you're not able to get into the zone, you're not going to be able to do it anyway. So, yeah, it's tough. I don't know. If I had the answer to that, I'd probably be hugely successful.
Yeah,
and I'd be a guru, and I could be sitting on a chair and everyone listening to my wonderful voice.
I'm doing
a few of those things.
Yeah. I think it's something that's...
We can green screen us into anything, by the way.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, we'll be sitting on thrones.
Yeah, no, it's very tricky. For example, at one of the major gyms, I do a class there, and I'm shocked at how packed it is. But I think it's because word of mouth has got around, and people think, yeah, great, we can go to her class and have a little bit of a sleep. We can go to her class, we can smell something nice. We can go to her class, we can see something nice, or we can perhaps talk about something. But it's how you market it. Difficult.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, people are going to be so much better educated on the topic now, having listened to this. Hopefully, you know, you got me being a bit of a dummy asking curious questions, and
I think that's so helpful, because
they're great questions.
I'm just thinking about how I would approach this conversation if I wasn't like experienced or open to any sort of mindfulness and that approach. I think any questions that seem silly or too personal or whatever are probably the best questions, because it's the things that people haven't experienced yet.
Because most people are going to have my attitude, right? And I'm not opposed to it. And I think I know I need to do more of it, but it's Charlie's very, very good.
Yeah.
But it's really opened my eyes up. My eyes have become more open, and I mean, one of my thoughts recently with the whole kind of like is social media and trying to promote it more was maybe I should be doing it in a suit or something like that, rather than all those flowing dresses, you know, and the braids and stuff like that, because then people will think, actually, I'm wearing a suit and I can do mindfulness too, or it actually relates to me. Because I think that's one of the main things. People don't know what it is, so then they can't relate to it. Yeah.
If I go wearing my bikini or whatever, and I'm like built up and I've done my bodybuilding, people know what that is.
Yeah.
They know exactly what that is. Or if I'm running on a treadmill, they know what that is. Mindfulness, people don't know what it is. Someone running in a field, you know, I'm happy now. These are things that are very difficult to grasp.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of the problem with the whole mindfulness movement as such.
And I think also because it is something which is awareness of the present moment, which is something which is always gone here, gonna happen in the present at some point, has already happened.
Yes.
It's something which runs. It is our experience day to day, regardless of what time of day it is, regardless of what we are doing.
Yeah.
And so it's quite hard to put it in a box and to isolate it.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the biggest realizations of mindfulness for me, and actually a lot of other things that I do. I was talking to the guy in one of the other episodes about using therapy, but not just in the four walls of the kind of the counselling and that talking therapy, is seeing how you can apply it outside.
Totally.
And I'd always come back to, maybe I might do, consistent mindfulness every morning with maybe a guided meditation, let's say, but I wouldn't use it for the rest of the day. It's almost like, I've done it for 5 minutes. Nice, cool. And then I realized, well, hold on, this is something which comes up at 3 p.m. or 4 p.m. when I'm coming back and I'm tired. Like I say, if there's something like traffic or something's delayed and something doesn't go to plan, or something impacts me in a certain way, that is exactly the time when it's on the track when I'm racing,
100%,
running, or in the gym. And I think it's trying to get that, those specific moments where it's the invisible power, but probably one of the most significant contributors to success, or again, just aligning with core values and maybe fulfillment or happiness.
Very much so. And I mean, it's almost like, I notice sometimes I get triggered, particularly when I'm doing the styling aspect of my career. I'll get triggered, someone will say something, and then I think, well, actually, why am I getting triggered? My ego is now getting on top of me. If I can just be mindful about that, then I can look at it in a completely different way and not be attached to it. So, I guess it's the same as when you go to the gym and you become aerobically fit. If you're then in a situation and you're in the middle of London and you need to get somewhere quite quick, you can run. So you're putting it into practice.
It's that freedom.
And that's it. Yeah. Freedom. Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, I like that analogy. It's just,
Yeah, I love that. Actually being able to put it into practice throughout the day. Yeah.
Well, I think we've gone through quite a lot today.
We have.
I think there's so much more we can go over. But
you just monkey brain and all that stuff.
And you just mentioned the ego as well. Gosh.
Oh yeah, that's a whole episode.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But Rachel, I think we're going to have you back on, because it's been a fantastic conversation today.
Thank you.
I've really, really enjoyed it.
Good.
I really appreciate it as well.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate it too. I mean, it's fabulous when you speak to people about it, and you're constantly enlightened by other people's views as well.
Yeah,
fantastic. Thank you.
Where can people find you on? Mention obviously social media. To figure out, more of what you do. Okay, cool. I have a website which is www.rachelgoldmeditation.com, and also I have 2 pages on Instagram: Rachel Gold Stylist _ and Rachel Gold Meditation _
And you've got your retreat coming up.
Oh yes, I forgot about that.
Yeah, give that a shout out.
On the 25th of April, I have
It's my birthday.
Oh, is it? Yes, happy birthday in advance. Oh, fantastic. 25th of April. This one is a women's only one, but I will be doing mixed ones, and I will be doing a men's only retreat as well. But this one is called Set Your Boundaries, and it's how to say no and mean it. And it's for women. It's going to be in Tonbridge in a retreat house, and it's going to be great fun. We're going to do lots of different segments. We're going to do some mindfulness to start off with, and the meditation. We're also going to talk about colour and the effect of wearing different colours, power colours and that sort of thing, as well as we're doing some one-to-one coaching on how to be more assertive. So it's going to be a great day, and you can buy a seat on my website.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Do you need to do your finishing notes, Charles?
I think that is about it.
Yeah. Awesome.
Lovely.
Rachel, thank you very much.
You're more than welcome. Thanks for having me.
Cheers.